What's up, cool people? I'm Matt Conroy. Welcome back to my vlog. First full one that I'm doing here in Pennsylvania. This time around, I'm going to be starting my, I guess, hot topics, you could call it, series of videos. Just go take a look at the last one real quick and you'll know what I'm doing with this little series. So, I'm going to start off with a particular topic that I feel I need to cover while some of what I have to say is still relevant. The big topic this time around is going to be politics. This is one of those areas where it really seems to bring out the worst in people, and really the least thoughtful parts of people. The biggest thing that bothers me about the topic of politics is that there are so many people that are just so heavily aligned with their particular political party. Like, you know, if they're registered Republican, they absolutely will not sway from voting Republican, or Democrats doing the same thing with the Democratic Party. I can understand holding to kind of the general values of a political party and, you know, wanting to fall in line with those and continue doing things that way, but honestly, the ways the political parties have done things over the years has changed quite a lot, and there have been all sorts of different candidates coming from both sides. So what bothers me is that people will go off of just blind faith, essentially, in terms of their political alignments, rather than looking at the actual candidates and being like, okay, you know, who do I feel like I agree with the most? And I realize that's part of the point of the primaries, but let's be honest, this year in particular, the primaries have just been an absolute debacle. Especially on the Republican side of things, everybody was just so focused on Donald Trump. He was getting so much of the media attention that people weren't able to step aside for a moment and take their mind off of Donald Trump enough to consider the other candidates with any real deliberateness to their thought process. You know, nobody really actually knew that much. I shouldn't say nobody, but a lot of people knew way less about the other candidates. Now I'm not going to claim that I do a ton of research on political candidates. Heck, honestly, I'm not even registered to vote, and I know that's going to annoy some people. I would be registered to vote if I weren't such a flipping nomad in my life since graduating college. I have never been in the same state for more than a year up to this point in any one particular time span. So, like, that makes it really difficult in terms of the voting registration and getting my votes in for all sorts of different stuff. But anyway, enough of that sidetrack. It seems like this year in particular, people have tended toward extremes with their political views and candidate alignment, or even who they kind of say they're against. Pretty much all I've heard from different people who are against certain candidates, like, okay, for example, it's all about, oh, Hillary Clinton's a liar, she's done nothing but lie her entire career, or, you know, Bernie Sanders is a socialist and socialism doesn't work, we can't afford exposing America to that. Or, you know, Ted Cruz is the Zodiac Killer. That was literally talked about more with Ted Cruz than pretty much any other thought or any other negative comment against him, at least as far as what I heard. And I'm just like, okay, really? And then there is Donald Trump again, where, okay, I'm not gonna completely just tear him down, because from a business standpoint, I know there's the whole small loan of $1 million line going on around there, which for most people is not a small loan, but if that's all he was given to start with, and he now has made billions off of that, let's be honest, he's a reasonably successful businessman. It's everything else about him that I have a problem with. And what I think I really want to get to with this, where I think the election system and even really the political system as a whole has gone awry, but especially when it comes to voting for the president, is we're either focused too much on the person's policies or we're not focused enough on them, if that makes any sense. For some people, they're all for, you know, Donald Trump and his immigration policy, wanting to build a wall and keep the illegal immigrants out. And, okay, I can understand people not wanting illegal immigrants in here, but let's face it, that's what this country has actually built itself off of. Many of our descendants were illegal immigrants, if you really think about it. Nobody had asked for the Pilgrims to come over and, you know, other settlers from England and other European countries to just start coming over to North America and taking land. When it comes to the political alignment kind of thing in terms of a particular issue, that's the main problem, is people will rally around a certain issue or two that they agree with for a particular person and just completely ignore everything else that they have to say. And that's not really, like, you have to look at the person as a whole if you're going to really consider how they're going to affect the future of this country. Now, where a lot of people get this wrong, just in general when it comes to voting for president and thinking about these issues, is they think the president has all this power to just make all these massive changes if they want to, or to just keep things the same if they so choose. The president does not have that much power as one individual person. There are 3 different branches of our government. For those of you who have not taken those classes or who have forgotten, quick breakdown. There's the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judicial branch. Legislative is basically Congress, you know, the House of Representatives and the Senate. They, for the most part, are coming up with the laws and voting on whether or not they actually turn from a bill into a law and get put into practice. The judicial branch is the branch of government that goes around and decides, okay, what's lawful, what isn't. They go around enforcing the laws and even in some cases reviewing certain laws and saying, is this actually constitutional? Then there's the executive branch, which is essentially the president. And while they have more power as an individual person than any other does within the political system, there are all sorts of different checks and balances and things like that to prevent one person from just taking over everything. So, while I do agree that, you know, voting for the president is a very important part of our political process, that one individual person is not on their own going to change the entire political and economic landscape of our country. That being said, I think what's key in this year and what is being massively overlooked by a lot of people is the personality, especially in the case of Donald Trump, honestly. Like, people are so just in line with his policies or just the fact that he's real. They don't consider his actual character traits and how he would represent the country as a whole, especially when it comes to foreign relations and that kind of stuff. You need a president who is going to take that office and not make a mockery of it, which is what I am afraid Donald Trump would do. Yeah, he might be blatantly honest, and that's not necessarily the worst thing in the world, but his blatant honesty goes too far, and he will unintentionally, just without even thinking about it, insult any and every possible group of people. And you don't want that especially from a foreign policy standpoint. If you think our country is being negatively viewed by the rest of the world, putting somebody like that in the position of president is just going to make it so much worse. So, from the character standpoint of things, really, that's where, at the point that I am recording this video, Bernie Sanders is still technically in the running as a possible Democratic nominee, and he is honestly the one that I would vote for, just because of the personality and how he would represent our country. Yeah, okay, people might say he's a socialist, and he might be somewhat of a socialist, but he as one person is not going to completely rip us off of our economic wheels and make massive changes to everything. He alone does not have that kind of power, even if he were to become the president. So, I think we need to think a little more and ponder on just how the president, or even our political system as a whole, is representing our country. Now, there are so many other things wrong with our political system that I would love to get into, but I really don't have time for that. Just real briefly, the whole two-party system thing is getting way out of hand. We really need to start considering what other potential options there might be, and or not be so honed in on our particular political party that it keeps us from looking at other alternatives that neither party is really considering for certain issues. Certain congressmen and women being in their positions for decades at a time, and just because nobody really knows anybody, nobody thinks that they're really going to have much of an impact, or even bother to really look into that and consider very heavily what they are doing. Just things of that sort that I feel get way overlooked, and I would love to talk about, but that's going to have to be a whole another time. That's kind of the general gist of things. Just main point being, you got to consider the person as a whole more so than just a particular policy or a certain aspect of that candidate for whatever position that it is. So anyway, that's going to do it for this video. Definitely, I feel like when it comes to this issue, a lot of it is about knowledge and just looking at things a certain way with a certain perspective or mindset. So really, especially for this video, I know I don't mention this much, but especially in this case, because of that nature of this topic, please give this video a like or share if you enjoy it or agreed that even just with the general thought process and needing to analyze the political arena more. And of course, if you want to keep up with these videos, this whole series thing that I'm doing, feel free to hit the subscribe button. I mean, I post every Monday, but if you want to make a little more certain that you don't miss any of it, that'll help, because you can just see my channel right there in your subscription box and that kind of stuff. That's going to do it for this time around. I hope you are all doing well, and I will see you next time. Later.